Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of On the Mic with Mike. I am your host, Mike Larkin, and joining me today is the very talented professional wrestler that is Kelsey Raegan. Kelsey, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. First and foremost, I got to tell you, from your professional wrestling wise, from your overall character wise, and from your overall skill, you are absolutely killing it. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you tonight.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. First and foremost, let's start it off here because it's amazing how people have their journey. They get into professional wrestling and how they wind up there. Some people start as a child, some people grow into it, some people get into it. So tell me, how did you get into professional wrestling? What was that moment, that defining moment, that match, what have you, that really said, you know what, this is something that I want to pursue, that being professional wrestling?
I feel like my journey is a little bit different than most people's. Like most people grow up with like watching it with their brothers or their dad. I didn't do that. Um, I never watched pro wrestling as a child. I did a little bit like in 96, 97. Um, and like back like during Taker and Mankind and like Steve Austin days, like, oh, I loved it. But then I just kind of like, it faded because I watched it with my cousins
Mhm.
and they like grew out of it, and so I just grew out of it, and then I got back into it about 5 years ago because I started dating a guy who watched wrestling, and I was like, wow, like I forgot how much I loved this as a kid, and I also like I grew up as a like I cheered my entire life and I did competitive gymnastics. And so I'm like, this is like pretty much exactly like gymnastics. It's just a little bit more violent. I'm like, I can definitely like I can see myself doing this. I want to try it out. So pretty much as soon as I started watching wrestling, that's when I started training as soon as I started watching it, and I got into it. I knew nothing about it, and it went from there.
First and foremost, I like how that is probably the first ever analogy that we've ever had on this show where it's like cheerleading, but it's violent. I love that analogy. That is very cool. Well,
It
here's
really is.
it does, but I also look at it from a stance of, I mean, well, first and foremost, that's actually kind of a cool comparison because being a pop culture nerd, so you're pretty much you went from being Kirsten Dunst and Bring It On to pretty much getting into the professional wrestling. Your career is pretty much what you're saying, almost starting from cheerleading to wrestling. That's awesome.
Yep, absolutely.
But what I also appreciate about that is too, because there's so many different avenues that people get into wrestling. Like you stop, it fades a little bit, but then you come back to it. But what's very cool is like look at a lot of the girls that get into it now, right? Like with WWE, like you have Total Divas, you have all these reality shows, and with the
Hmm.
the advancement of social media, there's a lot of different outlets and layers for people to get into professional wrestling. It's very interesting and intriguing to see people's journeys. So that's not a weird journey at all. But you are right here, and you're in the now, and you're doing the damn thing.
Oh yeah, I love it. Alexa Bliss is actually the one who pretty much motivated me to get into it because I'm like, I don't know anything about wrestling. I didn't grow up watching it. So I feel like I can't do this. And then when I found out that she didn't really grow up watching it either and she had pretty much like the same background as me, I'm like, well, if she can do it, then I can do it. And so I set my mind that I was going to do it, and here I am.
Well, I must say you actually have very good taste because from a character standpoint, what she's doing now with Bray Wyatt the Fiend and just the overall starting as this like bubbly, the sparkly princess, what she did in NXT, then just
Right.
being little Miss Bliss, like that's character development right there. And you could see it through her mannerisms and her overall wrestling, even being 5 feet of fury. That's definitely someone to look out for, and a lot of people that get inspired by that. And especially what she's been through with anorexia and the whole nine, like that
Hmm.
really is an inspiration.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think she's awesome.
And besides, I also look at it from a stance like with you, what you're doing now, and I also have to give credit to Florida as an overall because you look at Florida, right? Some of the best talent on the independent circuits, and I include yourself in these sentiments. You look from Florida from the days of Florida Championship Wrestling, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, God rest his soul, Eddie Graham. Florida is one of the most prominent spots and hotbeds for professional wrestling. We have NXT. We're going to talk about Atomic in here, but I think you can concur with me. God dang, man, you look at Florida, it's like pro wrestling haven, pro wrestling heaven, if you will, over there on the Florida scene.
Oh yeah, which I'm I'm from South Georgia, but I've lived in Florida for, oh my gosh, let's see. Like 13 years now. So it's pretty much my home. And yeah, I mean, I would love to wrestle elsewhere, but I haven't had that opportunity yet. So
Well, first and foremost, let me say I definitely will say that it will come to you and it will come for you. But I also look at it from this stance. You're also coming from another haven in South Georgia. So, I mean, that's a transition from South Georgia to Florida. That is the steps and the progress right there, you know?
oh yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a culture shock when I did it, but I got through it.
Well, okay. Now let's just go back to the culture shock for a second, because again, as someone who lives in the South himself, I'm from Myrtle. I live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, but I'm from Long Island, New York. So you're going from New York to
Oh
South
wow,
Carolina.
yeah.
Yes. So you're going from Georgia to Florida. That definitely is a culture shock in itself. But then eventually you get adjusted and you get into the swing of things. But it definitely is a process.
Mhm. Yeah, it was a process. I'm from a very like small like redneck town, and everybody knew everybody. And then I actually moved to Jacksonville, and which is huge to me. And it took me a while, and I started having like a lot of anxiety issues, and like I hardly ever left my house because I was just like so nervous to like it was a weird process for me, but I've really came a long way.
That you have, my friend. That you have. And then that brings us to I got to ask you, man. Let's talk about Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling here.
Hmm.
RW, great promotion. Talk about getting involved with them because I've seen a lot of great talent come there, which we'll discuss in a second. But talk about your journey into Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling. We get to see a lot of great shows. You have a match coming up with Destiny.
Oh,
Very.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
I saw. Well, we'll talk about that there first before we even get to Atomic as a whole. I was telling you this before we came on air. God dang, I love that promo.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Destiny is a great wrestler. She's awesome. So I'm excited to see what we're gonna do. I've like everyone's excited. I've had so many people send me messages like I'm stoked to watch this match. So I'm excited that we have people that are waiting for it.
Well, it's one of those things where what's great about the match is the promo is one of the best parts of the match because it's like you're telling a story from a verbal standpoint, and then when you get into it from the physical standpoint, you know it's going to be well, and you guys are going to create magic. And I mean, you guys have been in there before. You had La Brava in there. You've had Red
Mhm.
Velvet, who we've seen on AEW TV. Like that's a clash, and that's what's great about it is too. It continues the feud and adds a little dark layer that you got. And I look at you from a stance of you got the tattoos, you got that look about you, and encompasses darkness. It encompasses an edge, and you're going to show that in your bout with Destiny.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping I can really get into this dark, creepy, crazy character that I'm doing more. Which I feel like it's me. It is me because I am like my personality is kind of dark and creepy a little bit, but it's just like turned all the way up.
Well, I think that's the best extension of a character. I mean, for God's sake, man, Stone Cold Steve Austin comes in the WWF as the ringmaster. Just let him be Stone Cold, and then he shot up to the moon. Well, but in your scenario, but what's cool about it is too, it's you with the volume turned up. But some people would say the term weird, but I guess you could put it as it's a good weird because we all are very unique in our own preferences and stuff. So I think it suits you, and you're doing well with it.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And for me, that's the thing also nowadays is because a lot of people have that edge. I mean, what we've seen, like I mentioned, The Fiend with Alexa Bliss, there has to be that dark kind of character to it, especially what they're doing with the Dark Order and AEW. You have a lot
Hmm.
of different realms to expand your mind and open up your mind and your overall horizons to the character.
Yes, yes, I'm excited. I don't know where it's gonna take me, but we'll see.
Hey, if your wrestling ability is any indication, I think it's going to lead you to a lot of successful things, man. Because, like I said, you got that arsenal, you got that power, you got that fish, you got them kicks. I see you.
Oh,
So yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome. I also look at it from a stance of man, like I mentioned names like Red Velvet. Isn't it great to see a lot of talent from Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling appear on AEW television? Red Velvet's absolutely killing it. We've seen so many names being used as extras in
Hmm.
WWE. Prominent athletes coming from ARW.
I think it's awesome, and I get so like it's so I get so emotional just like watching my friends like move up in the wrestling world. Like I feel like every week I have someone else that is debuting on AEW Dark, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so excited for you. And one day it's definitely gonna happen for me, but for
Oh,
now
great.
it's
Agreed, and that's what I love about it too. Is because what's so great about professional wrestling, and we get to see a lot of the. You know what it is too for me. I also looked at it from a kid and from a teenager, and as we get to adulthood, the art of the enhancement role. You know, what I'm saying the enhancement talents, just the art of going out there, giving the opportunity, getting your name out there. That's the best part of all, and also the fact that we get to see a lot of people on AEW Dark, from Chico Adams, from Red Velvet.
Mhm.
The list goes on and on. And like you said, that it's going to be you one day, and I absolutely believe it will be you one day. And again, you got from Jacksonville, you got AEW, there's NXT. There's so much stuff encompassed in that that it's so great just to see how everything is really coming to fruition, especially with what's been going on with this pandemic that we still got going on in today's world. You're making the best of it, and I think each and every one of you guys and gals are making the best of it from a professional wrestling standpoint.
Mhm. I mean, that's really all that you can do, because it's unfortunate that this happens. About a year ago, before this all, like, the coronavirus happened, I was ready to, get this wrestling show on the road, and then it just came to a complete stop. So, but like, thankfully now, promotions are starting back, and it's happening slowly, but we're making the best of it. We're getting out there as much as we can. Thankfully, Atomic is giving me the opportunities that they are.
Agreed. And I also look at it from a standpoint. Now I got to ask you, because everybody, what's also kind of like a positive in a way with the coronavirus and everything that's happened with this pandemic. When we're at home, we get to have different ways of uniqueness and creativity of home workouts and stuff like that. Let me ask you, Kelsey, what's life been like with you in quarantine? How have you been doing as far as stuff at home and home workouts and stuff? Yes, things are starting to open up, but how are you during those times?
Oh, I definitely, my workouts took a hit for sure, for a little bit there. But now I'm starting to get it back, and um, the gym has opened up, thankfully. But I'm taking precautions. I wear my mask. I have my sanitizer. Like, I'm definitely not getting sick. But I gained some weight for sure.
Okay, hold on. I don't mean to laugh, but god dang it, you just get just so bluntly with the gains away. All right, here's the thing about that. Now, I'll be honest with you. As someone whose weight has fluctuated over the years, I understand. You know what I'm saying? I understand. Sometimes we get a sweet tooth, or just we manja, if you will, to use the Italian. But I understand, and that does happen. But I also look at it from a stance as like, and I'm going to say this with the utmost sincerity and respect to you, Miss Kelsey. You look great. You do. You look good still, though. You look great. You're still
Oh,
doing the
thank
damn thing.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. And again, this is from a man who was raised by a great mother and a grandmother, God rest her soul. And I've always enjoyed the beauty and the overall internal and external standpoint of a woman's beauty. And you got that. You do. You do.
Thank you so much. I did want to gain weight because my body type, I can't put on weight for anything, hardly, it seems. Um, so thankfully, I put on about 15 pounds during the quarantine. But it wasn't muscle. Like, it was definitely 15 pounds of fat, but that's okay.
So what you're pretty much saying is, and I'm going to make a movie reference here. You're like Step Brothers. You're like Derek. You haven't had a carb since 2003. He hadn't have a carb since 2003, and so you didn't have that cold body like that. But why he didn't gain anything from having that from over the years, you're not like Derek, is what you're saying. You're pretty much just saying, hey, I had a hard time gaining weight, but you need, and that does happen though. Is pretty
Oh
much what
yeah.
I'm saying to make a pop culture reference. But god dang, okay. Going back to that just for a quick second, just to relate to that, because this does go into professional wrestling. We have a lot of great different type of body types in professional wrestling and in the world as a whole, and that's what makes us unique, and that's what makes us beautiful as people. But I gotta say though, some people lose weight, some people put on weight, and adds and accentuates them from their overall external being, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Outlook.
Right. Well, I think it's important that there's different body types in wrestling because it makes it interesting. Like, if we all looked alike, that would kind of be just boring, and I don't
Sure.
know. I appreciate it.
Oh,
It's
you're
body positive.
Well, it's all about body positivity, and I'll be honest with you, we be like the blobs in that Fairly Odd Parents episode. For those who remember, when he makes the wish, we all look like the same. We're all like gray blobs. We don't want to be gray blobs. My goodness, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, now besides Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling, we got to talk about Gangrel's Wrestling Asylum here. My goodness, you were under some of the great tutelage in one David Heath, one Gangrel. We've seen him in the Brood. We've seen him in the Ministry of Darkness. The man has a mind. He has the intellect. Talk about Gangrel's Wrestling Asylum.
Oh, he's awesome. So I trained with Devon for my first year of wrestling training, and then I moved to Miami and started training with Dave Gangrel. And it was different because Devon and Gangrel are two completely like their training style is so different. But I have Devon what he's taught me, and then I have what Gangrel has taught me, and it's really just molded me into like the style of wrestling that I have. So it's awesome, and Gangrel is so sweet. So
Okay, now I'll be honest with you. Some people listen to that, and then from a guy who I've followed his career and who has a great. No, here's the thing. Here's where it's funny. You would think a guy who has fangs in his mouth and went by the name of the Vampire Warrior, and this one's over here talk about he's sweet. I understand. I really can't. But I also look at it. He drank blood for God's sake. Anyway, I digress. Gangrel is probably, and I can agree with you, as someone who has just seen like his seminars, because a lot of people get to see so many great seminars on
Mhm.
YouTube and stuff. Such a mind, and also the same with Devon, because the Team 3D Academy, what Devon's doing, you have a guy who's been in there for years upon years upon years. That intellect that he has, and especially what he's doing with the work behind the scenes with WWE, that is another one who's just amazing trainer. I mean, we've seen, I believe, Jesse Neal has also done some work for ARW. Jesse Neal also coming from the Team 3D Academy, and a lot of great talents like that have been
Mhm.
encompassed in that territory. So I mean, hey, Devon Dudley and David Heath, can you really do no wrong? I think not.
Yeah, I think I have like I got lucky. I got lucky. They're awesome.
But that's the thing, and I think what's great and what I appreciate it is because it's the right way. And here's where we talk about the roots. You know what I'm saying? Because when it comes to roots and the right way of being trained from a professional wrestling standpoint and paying your dues and the old school mentality is that's what I appreciate because you're getting brought up the right way on how to become a professional wrestler and to hone your craft from a verbal and physical standpoint.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
And I got to ask you as well, besides the fact, I mean, we've seen you in there with the likes of Eliza Hayes. We've seen you in there with so many. For me, I look at the way that your style and just the way that you're so crisp at what you do. I got to say, from those matches, from the matches with La Brava and Destiny, each and every one tells a story. And I have to just say, from what I've seen from your work, it's good. It's really, really good. And you're going to continue to shine. I just got to put you over that because it's crisp. It's a whole lot of crispness.
Thank you, thank you. I actually have a match with Eliza tomorrow, so
Nice. I gotta
yeah.
say something. I was watching that before we did the show, right? And I've seen a lot of Eliza Hayes' work. She's another one. Great character, very vibrant. She's one that I really have my eye on. I think she's gonna steal it with you.
Oh yes, she's. I met her last year, and I think that she's just improved so much over the last year, and um, I think she's just going to continue improving.
And that's what I love about it because I'll be honest with you. What's great about what I get to do from a interviewer standpoint, I get to interview a lot of great people who have been in the business for months to a year, what have you. But what I love each and everybody, and talking to you, and I include you in these sentiments, god dang, everybody has the willingness to learn, that one that wants to get better. And this is what I love about this new crop of talent too that's coming in because it's just so many people that just want to learn and just have the thriveness and just the overall ambition to do it. And that's what I love it. I think we could see that in a lot of great wrestlers coming up. And I'll put that as you as well because we've been talking about the fact that you're on the grind, you're doing the thing. I'm going to use this word. You are on the come up, Miss Kelsey Raegan.
I try.
Well, no, it's true. And I also look at it from a stance of no matter how, what part of their career they're in, whether it be 4 years, whether it be 20, my goodness gracious, 30, there's always something new to learn. And I think that's one of the most common things in professional wrestling that a lot of people forget. Like when you're in professional wrestling, you learn the tricks of the trade, you learn the arm drags, you learn the takedowns, the drop kicks, the
Mm-hmm.
overall catch can, and the overall science and mechanics behind professional wrestling. But I think, as you know, and you concur with me, there's always something new in new to learn. Excuse me, in professional wrestling.
Oh yeah, you never stop learning. Always.
And I gotta say this with you, and I gotta say, as far as this gimmick and what we have coming up with Destiny, I really look forward to just like we mentioned the storytelling. But you two also very similar. She's got that whole darkness about her. You got that darkness about you.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say this: with darkness clashes, and there's a whole lot of darkness. I mean, we've seen Freddy versus Jason. We've seen so many characters in the horror genre. I think it's a combustible elements colliding, and I think that's also the very good background and the storytelling behind your story.
Oh yeah, for sure. I knew I knew that I kind of wanted to do like a dark character from the very beginning because I'm a horror fan like since 3 years old. Like when I was three, my favorite movie was Nightmare on Elm Street. So I knew I wanted to do that, and I think with Destiny and her dark character, it's gonna be people are gonna be interested in it because there's so much like darkness, I guess.
First and foremost, we got to pump the brakes on here because we're not just going to gloss over the fact that you just said at 3 years old, Nightmare on Elm Street. What are you doing at 3 years old watching Nightmare on Elm Street?
Right? I don't understand it. My mom said that she tried to stop me from watching it, but then my father would just like sneak horror movies behind her back. And I don't know. I guess my father was super irresponsible, but I never scared me. I would watch it alone, and I loved Freddy Krueger. He was my man.
First and foremost, before we even divulge on some horror here, first of all, good taste in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Very, very good taste. And
Yes.
number two, now, all right, because this one is up for debate, so I have to ask you: the original Nightmare on Elm Street, or the one that they did in like the late 2000s that they did the
Oh no.
See, all
No.
right, nice, very good, very good. Because there's been a debate about this among horror fanatics about that, and I'm like, get out of here with that garbage. Because we recently did a show about this on one of the shows when we were doing for pop culture, and we had this thing, and it was this exact conversation that we're having about the original or 2008 or whatever that was, late 2000s. I'm like, get out of here with that. Because I remember I was in high school when this came out, right? Like the remake came out, and I'm like, my first initial reaction was no, because you can't, you're not gonna kill this overall classic that is Nightmare of Elm Street, Freddy Krueger. No, then they did, and I saw it because I was just curious just to see what happened, and that's the only time I saw it. Oh, it was disappointing. Do you notice that like every time they do these horror reboots, it's just like why? You know what I'm saying? Just
Oh, I know. I hate it. I really like. I don't remember like the latest one that come out, but I do know when they redid Child's Play. I went to the theaters and saw it, and I was just. It was a good movie, but it was not Child's Play. Like that's not Child's Play.
it was not. It was not
So,
like. I mean, even from the days of Bride of Chucky and The Seed of Chucky, for God's sake. But yeah, it's not Child's Play. And then, okay, this is where we'll go into another horror realm. Now, Stephen King, right? The classic It from the early
mhm.
'90s. Now, were you a fan of the remakes?
Yes,
Okay,
actually, those yes, awesome.
all right. See, I can agree with you on that because there are some that are good, like the It franchise that just came out. Now they're doing Scream, and there's another Halloween coming out. I myself am looking forward to the Scream one coming out. How about yourself? Are you a Scream fan?
Uh,
Yeah.
Not so much. Like I'm probably gonna watch it, but I wasn't too much of a Scream fan when it came out, to be honest. So we'll
Ah,
see.
fair enough. Okay, fair enough. All right. See, well, this is also around the time you got to understand when it came out in the '90s, and then you have Jennifer Love Hewitt doing "I Know What You Did Last Summer," and I still know what you did last summer. So it's a big franchise of horror, if you.
hmm
And I mean, you also had the classic. All right, I'm going to take you back here. How about the horror classic that is the horror comedy, The Lost Boys? How about The Lost Boys?
Oh, love the Lost Boys.
Awesome.
Love the Lost Boys.
Okay.
They
Now,
haven't remade that though, have they?
yes, they did two direct to DVD movies. There was Lost Boys: The Tribe and Lost Boys: The Thirst.
Oh yeah, that's right. I haven't seen either of those. They're probably not good. Are they good?
You don't. Yeah, okay, here's the thing, and it breaks my heart to say this. So Corey Haim, God rest his soul, is in the Lost Boys: The Tribe, the second one, but he's
hmm
not in it until the very end. He only has one line, and it stinks.
Oh.
Oh, he's in it. People will know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Corey Haim is in that one. And then the Thirst. It's mostly just about the Frog Brothers. It's really just about the Frog Brothers. After you get through everything that we saw in the original Lost Boys, the all-time classic that it is, it's really just more focused on Corey Feldman and the Frog Brothers.
Hmm. I'm gonna have to watch it, but I don't know. It's definitely not gonna be as good as the first.
That is true. That is true. But yes, but that's the amazing thing about horror. And again, you with the volume turned up, Miss, I watched Nightmare on Elm Street at 3 years old. That also could kind of encompass, what you're doing there, because you were talking about the volume turned up, and that's the coolness about you. And I'm still not going to get over the fact that you were watching Nightmare on Elm Street at 3 years old. That still amazes me. But I got to say,
Yeah.
even from a young age, you still had great taste.
Yeah, I don't understand. I remember my mom trying to get me to watch Care Bears or something, and I'd be like, "No." And I wanted to watch like Night of the Demons. I remember like very vividly being in the video store and be like, "No, I want to watch this." And then she'd be like, "Well, what about Care Bears?" I was a weird child.
First and foremost, once more, it's a good weird. And number two, I also look at it from a stance of, again, uniqueness and just the overall. There's a lot of great things in different genres of movies, but I also look at it from a stance like trying to get you into the Care Bears light, man. Just how about you watch the Care Bears movie? How about a little New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, for God's sake? Anything to steer you away from horror. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Right. She
yes.
knew I was a weird child and she was trying to help me.
Uh, But hey, no, that's all right though. But that again, I think that's what's also great about you too is it accentuates you, and that's what's great about the overall accentuation, excuse me, of the character. And dare I say, I'm going to use another term here: the badassery of your character. Yes, the badassery of your character.
Thank you.
Ah,
I
you're
I try.
no, again, it's good, and that's what I love about it because I think we're in a day and age where stuff that's very, new and evil is cool. Like, look at Retribution for God's sake. Like what they did with their vignettes and just how they're ready to take down everything and pretty much shut everybody up. That could also encompass you because you're ready to shut up, kick some faces, punch them in the face. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be encompassed in that. I mean, it's everything. It starts from the build up with your verbal standpoint with the promo. So hey, I think you got it going on. What's the 411? You got it going on, Kelsey Raegan.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'm doing my best.
No, and I think that's what I appreciate about a lot of talents like yourself, and I think in this professional wrestling era that we are in today, like I think you can also concur, like everybody brainstorms, everybody tries to find their niche, and if it
Hmm.
doesn't stick, sometimes you got to throw it against the wall. If it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick, but you will eventually find something that gels and really goes for what you're doing. I think that it goes with you, and I think that goes with a lot of talents that we see in the professional wrestling industry today.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And I also look at it from a stance of we got, oh my God, your matchup with Destiny coming up. We got your match with Eliza Hayes. There's a lot to come up with you, and there's a lot to come up with just professional wrestling in general. And I think you can agree with me because as a woman in the professional wrestling industry, there's a lot of talents that we've seen over the 80s, the 90s from your Alondra Blazes, your Sherry
Hmm.
Martels, from your Trish and Litas. How awesome is that for you? Because you get to be a part of such an immense group of evolutionary and revolutionary figures, and you were going to be that figure, if you will, and this is how I put it like this. When you're going out there for whatever bout you are, there is some girl in that audience that's going to say, hey, I want to be like Kelsey Raegan when I grow up. I want to get into professional wrestling and apply my craft. So you have that ability and you have that overall factor which you're just going to be inspiring and encouraging people. So I think it's a generation, it's a revolutionary, it's a historical standpoint for a lot of you ladies in professional wrestling today.
Oh yeah, it's the women's wrestling has really come a long way, and it's awesome to see. And if I can inspire one little girl in the crowd, like that means so much to me. Even now when little girls come up asking for my autograph, and even little boys too, like it gets me so emotional. Like I'm such an emotional person, and I tear up and I look around like, oh, is anyone watching me? Because I feel so like such a loser, but I really get emotional about that.
First of all, you're not a loser. And number two, no, I can appreciate the emotional standpoint because I think you concur. It's like a surreal feeling. Like really, like you want my autograph? You want? It's kind of surreal, and your emotions take over you. But it's a good thing, you know what I'm saying? Because that means your passion. That means like you're doing your thing, and it's a good thing in a way. But yes, we all come overcome with emotion, so I understand it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's awesome. And you never know when one of those little girls is actually going to follow in, the footsteps of women's wrestlers and, become the next Alundra Blaze or, whoever, Charlotte Flair. Like it could be. It happens.
Yes, exactly. And the Sasha Bankses and the Baileys and the Becky Lynch. Yes, I see what you're doing
Exactly.
there. All right. Now, I also look at it from a standpoint of, I'll be honest with you. And what I like about it, too, is you have Devon Dudley, you have Gangrel, which you mentioned in the show, but you are just going to continue to shine and you are going to continue to do your thing. You're even still probably going to get emotional because you're an emotional person. You're like the female Ric Flair of everything. You ever see Ric Flair
Yes.
crying all the time? You are the Ric Flair.
Absolutely. I cry all the time.
Oh, my goodness. When
And
Eddie Murphy.
it's sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I was gonna say when Eddie Murphy people came out with the hit single "Party All the Time" in the '80s, we could just flip the script on "You're Just Crying All the Time." That's what it is. It's what it is.
That is me for sure. People have I I've been told a million times that I'm intimidating. I don't know if it's like my tattoos or what, but like, I'm so not intimidating. My tattoos are of flowers, first of all. Like, it's the least intimidating thing. And, you know, I just cry all the time.
First and foremost, hold on a minute there, Miss Kelsey Raegan. You're just gonna burst everybody's bubble of your mystique. You're just like, hey, I got flowers on my arms. I got tats, and I cry. That's what this is. That's who I am. Come see me. All right, but no, but okay. Well, let's talk about this for a second. Now, as a man who does have tattoos in his own right, I have one in dedication to my grandfather, and I have one with a lot of crosses that mean blessed. So it's one of
Awesome.
the Thank you. It's one of those things where tattoos are also very addicting and they tell a story, and the body is
Oh, yeah.
so it's the canvas, right? So for you, talk about your tattoos because you do have flowers. I wanted to ask you about that because it does help encompass your image and the overall artistry that we see on your body.
Mhm. Um, well, I feel like I have a few tattoos that do mean a lot of things, but for the most part, it was just I had money. And I got addicted to getting tattoos. So I'm like, well, what can we get this week? So
I love your honesty. I had money. What can I get this week? Okay. So I have money. What can I get this week? So the same with my area where I grew up on Long Island, right? So right around the corner from my house, tattoo spot. Where I used to go to school, what was right around the corner? Tattoo spot. Where my grandparents used to live, what was right around the corner? Tattoo spot. Can you see the vicinities and the locations? Because
oh
you have
goodness.
Oh my goodness! One of the big ones that we had out on Long Island was a Tattoo Lose, which has actually been in inception since 1958, and it's one of the biggest franchise of tattoos on Long Island. So yes, if people know what I'm talking about from my New York area, you know what's up with Tattoo Lose, and there's places like John's Tattoo and Dakota Ink Tattoo. But yeah, there's so many tattoos in the vicinity in everybody's area. So I mean, hey, if you got the money and you want to put something on your arm, get yourself a sleeve, look like Randy Orton with his big ass sleeves and skulls and everything. God dang, go out and get yourself a tattoo. Everything has a story about it. But yeah, but you can't go wrong with the flowers. I mean, for God's sake, growing up as again pop culture nerdiness, look at the boy bands. They had like the barbed wire tattoo, friggin' the AJ McLean tattoo. Get yourself a 98 degrees tattoo like Jeff Timmons.
Oh,
Represent
sure.
your group. But yes, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Everybody has that little niche, so to speak, about what they want to get tattoo wise. They got to represent. Dare I say? They got to rep it. Rep it.
Mm. Yeah, which I knew when I was um I'd say when I moved to Jacksonville when I was like 16, 17, that's when I knew that I wanted to be covered in tattoos. Like I knew I wanted to have full sleeves um because I was from such a small town and a conservative town and no one had tattoos, and then I moved to Jacksonville and there were all these beautiful women who had full sleeves, and so I knew I wanted to do that, but it's it costs a lot of money, so I'm not quite there yet. I've been working on it for a while.
Well, you just said you had money, so I was about to say, about to make it rain, Miss Baller, shot caller over here. You know, it's that time of the week, tattoos. Hey, I see what.
Yeah, I had money in my early 20s when I had no bill when I had no bills. So
Right.
I have bills now and rent to pay.
All right, Destiny's Child over here with your bills. Can you pay my bills? Okay. So, all right. Going back to the fact that you have money and you just got to ink it up, it's one of those things where I look at you. When also we were talking about the badassery and the artistry of about it, but flowers. I'm going to say this about well, that's like one of the common ones for tattoos, not just with girls, but
Mhm.
flowers. But it's also the what type of. Now, let me ask you. We're going to go a little deep with this. What type of flowers? When we talk about flowers, we talk about roses. We talk about black roses. What do we talk about flower wise?
I have the majority are black dahlias. Well, it started with a black dahlia and then like it goes down my arm and they fade into like a pinky color. This is like a an ombre kind of thing. I do have I have two roses, I think, maybe. And then I have a brown-eyed Susan for my mother. So I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a tattoo on my other arm. Let's see, which one is it? My right arm.
I've seen it. I've seen your photos, kid. I've seen your 8x10s, if you will. I've seen your photos. Yes, I'm aware about it. Don't
So
worry.
it's my mom tattoo, and I have a brown-eyed Susan because her name is Susan and she has brown eyes. So I got that. It's like a little yellow flower.
Well, I'm gonna first and foremost say this: you're doing your mom proud. Got to give love to the mom. God bless. And also, I look at it from a standpoint, man. Like you're doing your thing. Also, I got to mention, I've seen the Plague of Nightmares. I've seen Jala. I've seen everything that you're trying to encompass with your group, which is awesome because it reminds me of like the Kevin Sullivans and what we've seen back in the day with what he's done with the Dungeon of Doom and just the overall
Hmm.
ominous vibes with Kevin Sullivan. Like I love that. I think that's a nice little mix you got going on there.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. But I think what's also cool about it is too, like I mentioned, like the Ministry of Darkness with Gangrel, like you have that type of that type of image and just that dark image. It's like, all right, I'm gonna paint you an example with an image, right? And since this is his 30-year anniversary coming up as we are recording this, The Undertaker, right? The Undertaker first comes out at Survivor Series 1990. You see this presence, this big man, he's got the hat, he's got the jacket, right? Kids crying over this man because he's so intimidating and he has that ominous presence about him. So I mean, if a lot of stables and a lot of factions, a lot of groups can do that, like the Undertaker did, I think you're doing your job very well.
Yeah, I feel like everyone wants to be like the Undertaker, but he was the man.
He was. And I mean, what's great about it is the evolution of character. You go from being a phenom, you go into being a badass, and then back to. Okay, so WrestleMania 20, when he fought against Kane, and I was there, the reaction was tremendous. But I also look at it from a stance of he kind of changed a little bit because he kind of had like a badass type phenom to him. It wasn't like the same
Hmm.
hung out coat, but it's cool because we all evolve. And I mean, look at Chris Jericho, for God's sake. First, he goes from being Y2J, then he's got the list, now he's got a little bit of the bubbly. So, I mean, you got to evolve with the times. And I think you got guys like legends like that are doing it.
Oh yeah, you have to evolve. It's just, I mean, if your character always stayed the same, I think that people would get bored with it. So you have to evolve over time.
Hey, I mean, again, this is my pop culture nerdiness coming out. If Joey McIntyre can have a song called "Stay the Same," for God's sake, some people stay the same, some people gotta evolve. But I understand. I think that's what's great. There's always a difference with baby faces and heels. Like you look at over the years, like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, right? Hall of Famer, legend. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat went throughout his career without being a heel. He was a white meat baby face. I mean, he had his son Richie. He was a baby face from his inception to his later years, right? Look at Sting.
Hmm.
Right? Like they tried making him a heel in TNA at the time, and which I mean, okay, but when you think of the Stinger and the Little Stingers and a man called Sting and the Icon Sting, I mean, he's a man of many names and he's a man called Sting. But for God's sake, you look at it, it's like it's the Stinger. He's got the bat. It's the Crow. You know what I'm saying? You just can't picture him as a heel. It's the same thing with Jeff Hardy. Like, all right, you look at Jeff Hardy, right? Jeff Hardy, charismatic enigma, doing his thing solo or with Matt. And Matt doing his thing now with the broken stuff. Like Jeff Hardy, you could not picture that guy a heel, but he was. He made it work with the Antichrist of professional wrestling. So everybody evolves it with different stuff. And besides, look at Matt Hardy, man. Some of those things, the somatic wrestling, if you will, the somatics and the theatrics behind the broken brilliance and the elite and the deletion, the whole nine, it really encompasses a lot of different match plays as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think that's what's great about just seeing the evolution of professional wrestling and just seeing people like yourself, again, to use the word on the come up, just do their thing and thrive and strive. And I'm going to say a couple final things here. First and foremost, my friend, the overture is here. Anytime you want to come back on the show, you're more than welcome to. It's been a blast shooting the breeze with you and really getting to pick your brain on a lot of many different topics. So I got to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I had so much fun.
Hey, you're very welcome. First and foremost, the vibrancy of this girl, man, talking about the fact that, hey, I got flowers and I cry, I'm emotional. You know what I'm saying? It's just emotions. So, hey, but no, you got a great vibrancy about you, and I really look forward to seeing what the future holds for you, Miss Kelsey Raegan. So, please, it's my pleasure and it's my privilege. So, I got to ask you, like, we talk about your journey getting into professional wrestling, maybe a little different than others, but it's a thing, and you have found your destination in the world of professional wrestling. So, I got to ask you again for advice wise, because man, a lot of people, they could be listening to this, they could be watching you. Anybody that wants to get into the world of professional wrestling, what advice would you give them, man? Because you're coming on your way and you're going to continue to go your way. So what advice would you give them?
I would say if anyone wants to try it, like absolutely try it. Like, maybe it could work for you, and maybe you could find out that it's not for you. But one thing, like, you definitely have to have thick skin because it's a learning process and it's not easy. Like, I've definitely been through some trying times, but it's so worth it.
First and foremost, blunt, straight to the point, and very honest. That was eloquently said. I love that. And what I also got to say about this too is, you see, again, going back to the fact that just because I cannot believe flowers and I am emotional, that is probably one of the most loveliest and bluntest answers ever. Straight to the point. I love it. So well said once more.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So this is where I step back, and Miss Kelsey Raegan, please promote the social medias. I'm talking Facebook, I'm talking about Twitter, I'm talking about Instagram, and please promote the upcoming matches with Eliza Hayes, Destiny coming up as well for ARW. The floor is yours. Go right ahead.
Yes. Okay, awesome. So it is at Kelsey Raegan on everything: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Kelsey Raegan. Raegan is spelled Raegan. Everyone misspells that. I don't know why. And then tomorrow I have my match with Eliza Hayes at Go Wrestle. I think they may live stream it, but I'm not sure. But I do know that they post everything on the Go Wrestle website. And then Sunday, I have my match at Atomic with Destiny. So excited for that. Next month, I have a faction new regime, and we are going against Controversial Inc. for the tag titles. We just did a run on them like last week at Knockout. So that's exciting too. And I think I'm making my debut at Real Pro Wrestling coming up, but I just got the info on that, so I'm waiting to hear back.
Well, I hope that all comes into fruition. Keep making your debut and keep doing your thing in the professional wrestling scene. And I also got to say this to you, Miss Kelsey Raegan. All right, I'm going to say this right now since we're talking about the misspelling. So it's like Regan, like I believe it's Ragen. It's like the president, right? Like Ronald Reagan, the whole nine. It's I know. I'm shocked that you have not had so many freaking people just mess up the name. But yeah, it's just I get it. So yeah, how many times does that happen on a daily basis?
Always, but that's fine. I always tell people when they say, "Oh, it's like Ronald Reagan, like the president." I'm like, "No, it's Reagan, like the Exorcist."
It all comes back to heart. It all comes
It
back to
does,
heart.
yeah. It's my life.
Okay. But yes, I had to ask you about that. As soon as you said this, I'm like, all right, I got to ask how many times he gets it. But yeah, so all right. So think of Regan from The Exorcist, and everything will be in the description links wise. By the way, I got to say this right now. Definitely a great follow you are because you post a lot of stuff from your matches. You post a lot of work. And I got to say, immaculate photos, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Please definitely give Kelsey a follow on all forms of social media. And one other thing I'd like to ask you, Miss Kelsey Raegan, please, if you have any final words from the fans that have been supporting you since day one, please go ahead. Any final words for the people?
Oh, I'm just really appreciative. Like the support means everything, honestly, because I would not be where I'm at without people supporting me.
Beautifully said, very straight to the point, and someone who's very vibrant and very blunt. That's what I love about you, my friend. And also, my final words will be beauty, strength, and dominance are three key elements that make women the work of art that they are. Miss Kelsey Raegan, you are a true work of art, and you are going to continue to shine, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So for Kelsey Raegan, my name is Mike Lark, and this concludes another edition of On the Mic with Mike. And we'll talk to you in the next episode. And people, please support your local professional wrestling, support the indies, support professional wrestling as a whole, and support great talents like Ms. Kelsey Raegan. Kelsey, it's a pleasure. It's a privilege. Thank you so much.
Awesome.